Hello YouTube, welcome to Frank's Garage. This is a series that I like to call Wrenching on Cars, and the subject today is this 2007 Gen 2 Toyota Prius that belongs to my youngest son. And we had a snow and ice storm last night, and he spun it out, smacked the curb, and fortunately the body is undamaged, but we do have this. And let me get you a little more light. We do have this, which is bad. The wheel is done for. These cars have a torsion twist axle in the rear. I expect the end of that to be twisted up like a pretzel. It's not super hard to get these things out. I'm going to be jacking this car up in a few minutes and seeing how bad the damage is and trying to source some replacement parts. Get back to you later. Okay, it is the same day. I've gotten the wheel off. I'm getting the bolts loose from the back of the hub. The bolt that was in this hole right here, which is one of the places that this axle is bent, I was concerned about it, but it came out. And if you can see, this axle is bent in about 4 places. It's bent here, it's bent here, it's bent here, and then if you can look underneath, it's bent in the center there. So my goal today is to get the other wheel off on the other side and get this up on jack stands. I have sourced the parts. Today is December 29th. They're going to be delivered on January 5th and ready to go in. The trailing arm mounts and the strut appear to be undamaged, as is all the brake hardware. As you can see, for a 2007, the conditions under here are excellent. None of the bolts are rusty. That was one of the things that sold this car when I purchased it, is that it was in immaculate condition. The wheel over there is toast. I've ordered a replacement for that. The tire may be savable. So I'm going to just keep working on this and get it up on jack stands. Okay, I've got the entire rear of the car up on jack stands right now. There's the damaged rim, and there's the one from the other side that came off a little easier. And you can see, this is what it's supposed to look like, not being bent. Everything's in good shape. None of the bolts are rusted. The struts are fine. Although this one's a little wet. It's not oil, I don't think. No, that's not oil, it's just from the snow. And then I have a jack stand over here on the frame of the car. And then I have a jack stand on the other side on the frame of the car, which was there when I was examining the damaged wheel. Now, a procedure that I've seen with this changing this axle calls for you to take off the hubs and then cut into this bracket right here, so that you can just slide the brake line off without having to open up the brake lines and not having to bleed the car. I'm kind of on the fence about that. I found a procedure that can be used with the Prius that doesn't require the scan tool to bleed the brakes. So I can just pinch off this line right here and then quickly disconnect that line, and then when the new part is here, reconnect it and put the hubs back on. The part that I sourced comes with the hubs, but these seems to be in decent shape, so I'm thinking to reuse these hubs and then keep the others as spare parts. Okay, so that's it for now. It's going to be about a week for parts in, so this is just going to be sitting here until the parts come. It's about 5 days later, and I'm back working on the Prius. I've sourced the parts for it. There's the remounted wheel and tire, and here's the damage to the wheel that was done in the accident. You see it's quite dented. These wheels have TPMS sensors in them, even though there isn't a pressure display inside. All you get is a TPMS light. And then over here we have the new axle. Fortunately, the part came with brake lines and the hubs and drums and all of the bolts, and I'm unwrapping the part. My intention is to take off the existing hubs and reuse them, but I'll open these up and see what condition they're in. And off to unwrapping the new parts. Okay, we're continuing on the Prius again and getting this apart. One of the procedures I saw suggested that you notch this bracket right here. I was kind of nervous about doing that, and I don't have a cutoff wheel. So what I did was I clamped off the brake line, and I just opened the fitting briefly and then took it out of the bracket and closed it again. As you notice, just a couple of drops of brake fluid. I intend to bleed the brakes when this is over. I disconnected all of the clamps here holding the brake wire and undid the bolts on the back of the hub so that the hub will lift off and it'll be connected by both the brake hose and the parking brake cable. There's a nice little ledge right there where you can sit the brake drum assembly. The wheel bearing comes out of that very easily, and let me just get that done here. And here you have the wheel bearing assembly separated from the axle, and the brake drum is tucked up there. The next thing we're going to do is attacking the large bolts that hold the axle in. Lots of progress since we last saw this. My work light is upstairs charging, but as you'll see, there's a big hole there. We've gotten our prise out, and the next step is to prep the new axle to go in. And there it is over in the corner. Some nice bends in it, and we're getting ready to unpack the new axle and see if we can get in there. Now that my light has a chance to recharge, I'll give you a look underneath the car. There's the strut and the brake assembly that's over to one side, and basically you can see there's pretty much nothing under here anymore. I'm going to be it is really difficult doing this, and I would have liked to have shown you me struggling to get the axle out. Basically, once I had the hubs off and up to the side there, I unbolted the shock. There was a long bolt that went through this mount right here, and got that out, supported the axle with the floor jack, and then popped the struts out with the handy dandy pry bar, and then I had to raise and lower it a little bit. There was a second screw jack I had here to get it aligned so that the bolts would come out more easily, and then just put the pry bar to it and then dropped it onto the floor jack and then onto the floor. And as I showed you, it's over in the corner there, and I'll be unpackaging the new axle now and to get it in there. One thing that I recommend is this set of flare wrenches. Undoing brake lines, it is real easy to round off the fittings. The normal box wrench grips it on two sides. The flare wrenches let you get around the line and go all the way around. And this tool is this set of tools. It wasn't that expensive, and it's definitely worth the money. Here we are back on the Prius again. It was a real struggle to get the axle back in, but I jacked it up, reconnected the strut on the back of the axle, and then horsed the front bolts into place. The bolts are in. They've not been appropriately tightened yet, and I'm starting to reassemble the hubs. I'm about to open that brake line very quickly again, and then reconnect it through the bracket. Okay, the car is all back together. Here's the driver's side, and then we'll walk around to the passenger side. And then the next step here is to bleed the brakes, put the wheels on, drop it to the ground, and finish tightening up these suspension bolts. I got excited last night and bled the brakes of the Prius off camera, and the last thing to do was tighten up the bolts. The procedure that I downloaded for changing this axle that gave all the torque specifications said to do the final tightening bolt with the wheels on, the car on the ground. It was impossible for me to do that because you can see this car is very low and I couldn't get underneath it with a torque wrench. So what I did was I jacked up, with the wheels off, I jacked up the axle so that the hubs were basically at ride height and most of the weight was resting on the suspension. And then I was just barely able to get under there and tighten up the bolts. Took it for a ride last night. It drives straight, no vibrations. So the Prius is done. I'll take you out for a ride in it in a few minutes. Okay, we're in the Prius. It's driving fine. And I'm about to take it to fill up with gas because it's one of your kids' cars. It never has gas in it. And the maintenance light is on, so I'm taking it for an oil change as well. So that'll wrap it up for the Prius. We'll see you next time, wrenching on cars.